Hi, Sizeless Observer. What I'm about to show can be shocking for radical Big Bangers. So first, I'll sum up how I've reached here. With the impansion idea, I have exchanged the concepts of outside and inside. This way, the bigger and the latter become the smaller without affecting scientific theories. The conclusion is that space, time and matter don't exist before our experience. Indeed, all we know about nature are harmonic relations. Therefore, I've used harmony as a central metaphor for impansion. Harmony is about complexity. So, what do we know of complexity? First, it comes in uneven layers. And second, it's relative regarding to subjective limits. More precisely, each harmonic structure sees a particular point of maximum consonance as the beginning and end of increasing complexities. So, if we mix these ingredients, we obtain a unified picture. Pure complexity is like an impanded fractal, a shape of ratios repeated inward at infinite scales. Of course, inward is a metaphor, because I'm addressing a sizeless reality with spatial terms. However, it can be an excellent map to review what we know from science. For example, imagine a section of that endless fractal. It observes itself with high sophistication. The experience is so vivid that it resembles a unique subject observing a universe. So imagine our subject, Q, contemplating uneven layers of increasing complexity from A, the infinitely simple, to Z, the infinitely complex. Q perceives both harmonic directions very differently. Her physical experience is how she feels the simpler, while the more complex takes the form of diffuse inner points. So imagine every fractal root folded like a sock around its tip. This way, increasingly complex bricks delimit and comprise the structures of decreasing size for Q. For example, radiation constitutes all of Q's visible universe. So she observes a small past when only photons existed and imagines a big future when only photons will exist again. Atoms feed galactic boundaries, structures that seem to spin around gigantic black holes. As I explained in another chapter, Q can even see the birth of some galaxies in the form of two jets, a mid-bang coming from the center. Some steps closer in complexity, Q can find relatively simple molecules and bodies enclosing solar systems, whose beginning and end look connected to the central star. This time, the jets extend around the fractal tip as solar radiation. So Q cannot see a black hole inside her sun. Still, she calculates that many stars end up as rotating black holes. Even closer, smaller systems appear conformed by more complex bricks. By now, the roots are like soft radiation, and the tips are like blurry futures when the corresponding structure just won't exist. Thus, Q observes her neighboring limbs as stunningly complex systems, appearing from and returning to nowhere. At some point, this experience makes her believe in a time arrow. It's her first transcendental mistake. But she makes two more. Q is the sizeless ensemble of simpler structures up to the A root. She lives in them, so she feels inside a material body. Down this point, Q cannot assign a size to increasing complexities, so she feels them inside, an experience she calls mind. This way, Q contains collective identities, purposes or futures of multiple bodies. Unfortunately, she cannot manipulate those systems as consistently as simpler structures. So she prioritizes her material experience. She describes herself as a material object that travels through time from some beginning to some end. It's her second mistake. Now, can you guess the third one? Of course, Q's material experience happens in a spatial scenery. Hence, she imagines herself traveling through a unique container, a universe that holds everything else. This way, Q has completely transformed into a scientific mind, forgetting that all her physics theories are just metaphors for dimensionless ratios. Another, more direct metaphor for her experience would be an endless mixture of harmonic fractal sections, each root gathering all the tips below. Fully shrunk universes that, ironically, contain their fully expanded versions. Some Big Bangers have graced this idea with equations, but math fosters the literal understanding of the space-time metaphors. Playing with containers and time arrows has forced physicists to imagine these bubbles of existence sprouting outwards and isolated from each other. Impansion, instead, invites us to imagine everything we experience as overlapped inward bubbles. Of course, we see them expanding because we are all impanded. This new picture suggests a new meaning for concepts like space travel, history, or death. So I'll address them in the last chapters. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.